Let's talk about the illusion of time. In the previous videos, we talked about the experience of time as linear. And as you raise your consciousness and begin to access your multidimensional self, you begin to experience it as circular. This is a response to the comment of how, but first a quick recap. Einstein thought of time as an illusion. As you awaken to your true self, you begin to see through the illusion and see time from a higher perspective. We talked about seeing time as a record, where all the music exists now but is played linearly, one song at a time as the record rotates. All the songs or timelines are spinning at the same time, but we only hear or experience the song that the needle is on. As our conscious attention is in one groove, we experience that timeline. Unlike the record analogy, the timeline is not predestined. It is created by us as we are co-creating this reality. The record analogy shows the physical record as a 3D object and the spinning of it as time, which we'll call the fourth dimension. This is an analogy and it's not perfect, but the record and the spin will comprise space-time. Your consciousness experiences both 3D and 4D reality, space-time, from a higher perspective. Your consciousness is actually in a dimension above time, 5D. Ask yourself, did your consciousness age or did it experience and observe age during your life? The spinning of the record has nothing to do with the needle. The needle plays the songs in a dimension outside of time. As our conscious attention is on the record of space-time, we experience it linearly. But keep in mind, the songs are created by us. We are co-creators of this reality. Just like a video game, all the potential moves exist on the disc, but as you play, you experience the game sequentially. The question is, how can we access future information? We'll get into changing the past in a bit, but that was a question as well, and that involves multiple timelines. But let's say you want to access information from your future self. How do you do that? As I mentioned before, we do it already on a small scale. Let's start with imagination. It is very important. As kids, we are full of it and we can be anything, but our systems in the matrix tend to squeeze it out of us. But let's examine what it is. To imagine. To bring an image in. That is the point of creation, a seed of possibility. And if it exists in your imagination, it can be created. In an infinite universe, can you imagine something that doesn't exist or can't be created? Is your imagination greater than the cosmos? With any seed, it takes time and the right environment for it to grow. Is your mind the right environment for what's in your imagination to grow? Are you watering your seeds? Are you feeding your imagination? One way to water or feed the ideas is to take action on it. When you begin to take action, the universe works with you to manifest it. And the action is acting as if you had what's in your imagination now. Another question is how to get information from your future self. We do it on a level already and many aren't aware of it. We call it imagination, intuition, and vision. It's when the light bulb comes to you, or is it from you? Could that be information from your future self on something that you wish to create in the past from its perspective? I've heard countless stories, and you may have experienced it as well, when something said to do something. Most of the time people ignore that something voice and the story goes, something told me to do X, but I didn't listen. That is mainly because we don't trust ourselves. What if that something is your future self attempting to save you from some anguish? Pay attention to that something voice and strengthen the connection to it. Begin to trust yourself. Another question was how to change the past. Now that involves multiple timelines, but changing the present changes the past in your future. Just like making your bed in the morning creates a past in the future where you don't have to make it. But let's look at changing the past. We'll use the movie Avengers as an example, even though I have no time machine. So when Thanos snapped his fingers and erased half of the universe, that is hard-coded in the record. That timeline exists. What the Avengers did was go back in time before that happened and created an alternate timeline. Even Thanos said something to the effect that they came from a timeline where it happened, but he hasn't done yet what they're trying to stop. That timeline where he did it still exists. Changing the past like that takes a time machine because time flows continually forward like a river. To illustrate, let's look at a river. We understand the current flows in one direction like time does linearly. While future decision points exist as probabilities, once we pass them, we can't go back in that timeline. Those decisions are hard-coded into that timeline. We can't go back down the current and redo the decision as we are constantly pushed forward. When I said time is running out, humanity has come into a decision point in its collective timeline, and the decisions can't be reversed. We have the option to choose a higher timeline where the possibility of a new renaissance or utopia is possible. If we do nothing, the decision will be decided for us, and it doesn't take a time traveler to see that the current reality is heading towards destruction, dystopia, and totalitarianism. That is the reality the elites want us to create by default by waiting on external saviors that never come. If we did nothing and that happened, that timeline is locked, and the people in it are experiencing the choices we made. Those people are us in the future and on a level that has happened. That is what I've seen in 3004, but that's a different video. The information from the future is like our collective something voice telling us to wake up. We can co-create a new timeline, and that's what I'm here to assist with. Multiple timelines exist simultaneously, and they all don't start and stop at the same place. So while decisions are hard-coded, there is a timeline where it hasn't happened yet. We are on that timeline where it hasn't, but the decision points are approaching. And the question is, what you gonna do? We are holding the space for the new timeline, but it takes us as a collective to manifest it. We are the majority and there's nothing stopping us but us. Trust yourselves and take back control of this reality. Otherwise, we will create the vision of the future we've been shown in most of the Hollywood future movies, and it's not ideal.